how's it going? It's me, Betty Jean. So I did a video recently that was inspired by Julia Mazzucato. I will post that down in the description box. But basically the video was me taking all of my palettes that I had multiples of from a brand, and if I had to declutter one, which would it be? That was such a tough video to film because in that fantasy world I did not want to declutter any of them. It was a really hard decision, but it was a really fun video to make and you guys seemed to really enjoy it, and I actually got a suggestion to do the same type of video but flip it and make it like if I could only keep one from each brand. And I really liked that idea, so that's what I want to do today. Again, I'm keeping this simply to just brands that I have multiples of. I have plenty of palettes that I only have one from that brand, and I'm not even going to go over those because that's the obvious answer. These are strictly the palettes that I have multiples of. So yeah, let's dive into it. Picking out these palettes was actually easier than picking out the decluttering one. I don't know why. This one feels more like which is my favorite from a brand versus which is my least favorite. It was really hard to pick a least favorite, but this feels a little more positive. A couple of the choices were still really hard and I'll go over those, but regardless, we're just gonna hop into it, chat about makeup, why I picked these palettes, and so on and so forth. I did film this look, by the way. It should be on my IGTV by the time this video is up. It's not my favorite makeup I've ever done, but it's passable and I'm not redoing it and I really want to film this one. So we're just gonna proceed. Let's just hop right into it, shall we? All right, so let's just go over the obvious one, Ace Beauté. You guys already know what I'm gonna pick. If I could only keep one of my Ace Beauté palettes, it would be my Flare. This is still tied for first place as my favorite palette ever. I just feel like it is the perfect combination of grungy tones and colorful tones. Anytime I travel, which who knows when I will travel again, but anytime I travel, this always comes with me. I feel like it's always just a really helpful palette to have around. Has really good variety. I really like the matte shimmer ratio. I love this palette with my whole heart. This was a no-brainer. Of course, this is the one I would keep. Obviously, it would be devastating to get rid of my other ones, but this is the one that would for sure stick around. Another one that was also a no-brainer from Nomad Cosmetics, which you guys will also already know. This is tied for first place as well, but it is my Muerte palette. I love this palette with my whole heart. It was literally the most exciting release of 2019. I was so thrilled with the promo photos. I was thrilled with the just launch in general. I was so excited playing with this. I still love it so much. It's discontinued now, unfortunately. I don't know why they did that. It's so loved. I don't know why they made that collection limited edition. They need to bring it back. I don't know what they're thinking, but regardless, this is one of my favorite palettes ever. This was so easy to determine that I was going to keep this one. A little update on the declutter one. Now that I have the 3 melt palettes out of Muerte, Gemini, and She's and Parties, I'd probably declutter the She's and Parties and keep my Gemini around. I know I decluttered Gemini in that fantasy video, but I just love my Gemini just a teensy bit more. I feel like I would use those colors a little more often than my She's and Parties, but again, that's really tough because I love my She's and Parties palette. I've had a lot of fun with it lately. Moving on, let's talk about Menagerie. This is another one that was really easy. I feel like a lot of you would be able to guess which one I kept, but it's the Whale Song. I love this palette. I love it so much. I had the best time playing with it when it first came out, and I still have so much fun when I do pick it up. It's just so beautiful. I love the tones they picked. They picked the murkiest, grungiest greens, and I love it. I really like these deepened teals and blues. They're, oh my gosh, they're magical. I love the shimmers. I love everything about this palette. It does stain. It is quite the pigmented palette, but I don't even care. It is so beautiful, so easy to work with. I love this palette with my whole heart. This was a very easy choice. A decision that was kind of difficult was Sugar Pill. I could not decide for a little while between the Fun Size and the Pink Capsule Volume 1. I love both so much, but I ultimately ended up going with my Fun Size. I just feel like I would reach for this one more often long term. It's all matte, so I could use this in so many ways. I really like this palette a lot. I could intermix this with other things so easily. It's just so beautiful, and I love this shade in particular so much. It's one of my favorite shades in my collection. It's so beautiful, and yeah, I ended up picking this palette. I would be sad getting rid of my others, of course, like that goes for all of these. I'd be sad getting rid of all of the other ones, but this is the one I think would have to stick around. Moving on to Kaleidos. I think a lot of you will be able to guess this one as well, but the palette that I ultimately decided that I would keep around is my Kaleidos Electro Turquoise Futurism 5 palette. I love this one. I call it my favorite Taco Bell color scheme palette. It's just so beautiful. Let me try not to blind you with my mirror. I love the two shimmers in here so much. They are some of the prettiest shimmers I have in my collection. I love the choice of mattes. I actually even like this orange, even though I'm not a huge orange eyeshadow person. I really like playing this one. I feel very creative when I use it. I'm never disappointed with the looks I create. I think I would miss, like if this one was gone, I think I would miss it very deeply. So this one I had to keep around. It's so beautiful and I love it so much. Next up from Odin's Eye, I also knew the answer to this one pretty quickly and I think a lot of you would guess it as well because I've been like raving about it for a month now. It's the Soul Monde palette. I just love this one. I think the color scheme is so cute. I love this lilac-y shade with my whole heart. These two shimmers here are so beautiful. This makes a really cute blush. The mattes blend like butter. Of course, there's a beautiful mustard that I adore. I love this palette. I continuously want to pick it up, especially if I have time to do a little eye makeup before work. This palette makes me so happy. And you can use my code BEAUTYBEAN in all caps to save money on Odin's Eye's sites, if you feel like checking that out. That code is affiliated, no pressure, but if you want to save some money, it's there for you. Next up from Nomad Cosmetics, this one was also easy, mostly because what I have from Nomad Cosmetics is one palette and 3 quads, so I picked the palette. I like my palette a bit more than the quads. It's the Tokyo Harajuku. You guys know how much I love this palette. I think it's so beautifully done. The satins in the middle row aren't my total favorite. I'm just not a huge satin eyeshadow person. They're fine quality, just not my favorite texture. The matte pastels on the top are very cute and easy to work with. I actually really like this gray. I think it works really nicely. It's like almost brown toned, but also gray. It can work with cools and warms. It's really nice to deepen things up a little bit and just add more of like that shadowy cast. It's not going to make these pastels look darker. Like you're not going to get a dark green by mixing the two together, but it does add a nice shadow in there to add just like that illusion of a shadow. But these shimmers on the bottom row steal the show. They are so magical, beautiful duochromes. I love them. They're so like dimethicone-y feeling. They're so reflective on the lid. I don't think I'd be happy if this palette wasn't in my life, mostly because of those shimmers, so this one had to stick around. I also have a code with Nomad. It's BEAUTYBEAN10. It's not affiliated. I don't make a commission, but it does save you money. Next up from Anastasia Beverly Hills. They're a very weird brand now. They're not really someone I'm super comfortable promoting on my channel anymore, and probably not a brand I'm gonna buy from in the future. I just don't like the things that they've been doing with their brand lately. I've heard very sketchy things and read rarely sad stories, but I do have a couple palettes, so I'll just discuss the one that I would keep, but again, I'm not really trying to promote this brand right now. But the one that I would keep is my Subculture palette. I've loved this since the beginning. I think it's a very fun color scheme. It was very innovative. I know there was that huge drama conspiracy on multiple palettes. Some people had issues, some people didn't. Mine was always fine. I never really had trouble. I still think it's a beautiful palette. I will probably keep mine for a very long time, even though I won't really use it on my channel. I'll still keep it around, and for this fantasy video, that's the one that would stick around out of my Anastasia palettes. From Pinky Rose, I have the 3 palettes from the Trilogy collection from late 2018, I believe, and the one that I would keep is the Exotic Peacock. This has been my favorite of the 3 since the beginning, and I still think it's so fun. It's so beautiful, very inspiring. I love the mattes. They work so nicely. The shimmers are so insanely complimentary. You have like such unlimited cohesive looks with this, if that makes sense. I think this is so fun to work with. This is also a shade that is just so beautiful. One of my favorites in my collection as well. I just love a dirty, grungy chartreuse so much. I love this palette. This is the one that would hands down stick around. I would be really sad if this wasn't in my collection. Let's move on to Colourpop, and I think you guys might be a little surprised, but maybe not. But the one that I would keep around is the Blow and Smoke. It was formerly called Smoke Show, but they had a copyright issue, so the Blow and Smoke palette is the one that I would ultimately keep. I was so impressed with this palette. I love the matte to shimmer ratio in here. They picked the perfect range of grays and blacks. These shimmers are so stunning. This one in the middle literally looks like just pure wetness on the lid. I was so impressed with this. I felt like I could actually create a really good variety. And I also feel like with this fantasy scenario, when I'm only keeping one from each brand, it would be really helpful to have this type of palette in my arsenal. So not only is it just my favorite, just inspiration-wise, formula-wise, everything like that, it wowed me so much. It would also just be very useful in this situation. So Blow and Smoke, that's the one sticking around. I also have a code with Colourpop. It's 5-butene. Again, not an affiliate code. I don't make a commission, but it does save you some money. Moving on to Juvia's Place, I ended up going with the Tribe palette. At first, I wasn't sure if I would pick the Tribe or the Deuce, but I think the Tribe is my favorite. I love those pops of neon on the top. The shimmers in the middle are just mouth-watering. They're so beautiful. The shades on the bottom are so cute. I love how grungy and dirty this one is, and I mean that in the best way possible. This deep teal is so rich and delicious. I just love this palette. I love everything about it. I have so much fun every time I pull this out. It's hands down my favorite Juvia's Place palette. And I also feel like this is the best formula from them. Their formula can be a little inconsistent in my opinion, but this one was very solid. Moving on to BH Cosmetics, this will be very obvious if you watched my first one because I only had 2 options and I did declutter, in quotes, declutter, fake declutter, my Royal Affair, so the one that I would keep around is my Weekend Festival. Or did I declutter the Weekend Festival? Now I don't remember what I did. In my mind I feel like I would keep this one and declutter the other one, so hopefully I'm not mistaken. Otherwise I guess I'm decluttering both in this scenario. But yes, this is the one that I would keep. I still think it's really fun. I think it's super easy to work with. I wish that they would kind of like go back to this because the last 2 years of their festival palettes were big bummers to me, so this was a star. I wish they would bring it back, honestly, because I know a lot of people still really want it. I really like it. I think a lot of people would enjoy this. I think the color selection was beautiful. I don't really have anything negative to say. This is the one I would keep out of the 2, bottom line. From Spoiled Lips Cosmetics, I ended up picking my Slave for Salma palette. I think it's such a cute little 9-pan. The formula inside is my favorite formula from them. I really like the color story as well. A lot of people said it reminded them of the Jackie Aina palette, and I totally can see that, and that actually makes me happy because I was debating getting that one and I never ended up doing it, so I'm happy to have like a similar vibe. And I really like the formula. The shimmers in the middle are so pretty. The mattes are so buttery and pigmented. I have a great time with this palette when I use it, and yeah, this is the one that I would keep. It's the star of the show for me as far as my Spoiled Lips palettes. I want to see more small ones from them. They come out with a lot of big ones, and I'd really like to see more small ones because that's more my game. Alright, Alter Ego. I wonder if you guys will guess this one, but I ended up picking my Goddess palette. I just love this palette. This is another palette that I reach for if I need just something quick and easy. It's so easy to create really beautiful looks. This one likely would come traveling with me whenever traveling happens again. I love it. I feel very glamorous when I wear this, but I can also bust out really grungy looks with these beautiful mustards. You can also get kind of colorful with these really cute turquoises. It just depends on how you place your shadows. I love this palette. It's so beautiful. This was the first one I ever tried from Alter Ego, and I love it so much. You can also use my code BEAUTYBEAN in all caps to save money. I know I have a lot of codes now. I'm very thankful, but I only pick codes with brands that I'm really excited about. But you can use my code BEAUTYBEAN. Again, that one is an affiliate code, so I would make a commission, no pressure. I like to be very transparent with that. From Dido Cosmetics, this is a newer brand I tried. I don't even think I tried this brand with my last video. But out of the 2 palettes I have, the one that I would keep is the Neon palette. I was really pleasantly surprised with this. I didn't expect to like it as much as I do, but the mattes seemed very pigmented. They blended nicely. I haven't used every single shade on my eyes yet because it's still very new to me, but so far I'm really impressed, and this one definitely just wows me more than the Galaxy Shade palette. That would be the one I would declutter, mostly just because like the mattes in it aren't that exciting and there is a pressed glitter, whereas this one's just all fun colors. The performance seems to be nice. I'm excited to keep using this one. I think it's really pretty. We're getting down to the end. Next is Give Me Glow. This was a hard one. I couldn't decide if I would keep my Summer Vibes or my Vintage Rose. It was really tough, but I ultimately ended up going with the Summer Vibes for a couple of reasons. One, since I'm only keeping 1 palette from Give Me Glow in this fantasy world, this gives me more Give Me Glow shadows. I know typically I like my smaller palettes, but I tried to think of reasons why I should keep one over the other. And the fact that I would have more Give Me Glow shadows this way is a good reason. I love this shade as a blush. That's another reason. The shimmers in here steal my heart. The shimmers in the Vintage Rose steal my heart too. The formula is just amazing across the board. But these specific shimmers, like I love this blue and this peach so much. I really like the bright, vibrant colors in here, like the yellow is beautiful. I really like the pink. I really like this turquoisey color. I really like this one, and I feel like I just get a little more variety with this one versus the Vintage Rose. The Vintage Rose is very much like a specific color story. This one's a little more just colorful fun, so that's kind of why I picked this one, but it was a very hard decision. Vintage Rose is still like at the very top of the list as well, so doesn't mean I don't like my Vintage Rose. This one just barely made the cut. And finally, we are on the last one, Shroud Cosmetics. This was tough. This was the hardest decision ever because I could not decide between my Creepy Cute and my Arcana palette. I couldn't decide. It was so difficult, but I ultimately ended up picking the Arcana. I don't know if that's gonna be a shock or not, but I think it's kind of shocking because I love my Creepy Cute so much. But similar reasons with the Give Me Glow. This gives me more Shroud variety if I was only keeping one Shroud palette. I like that there's shimmers in this one. There's no shimmers in the Creepy Cute. I almost forgot the name. And Shroud Shimmer formula is just so superb. It's so beautiful. I really like the mattes. It's very grungy and jewel toned. I love this palette. I think I'd be really sad if I didn't have this. I'm really sad thinking about not having my Creepy Cute, but I love this palette too. And I did keep in the back of my mind that in this fantasy scenario, I am keeping that Fun Size palette from Sugar Pill so I can still bust out some pastel looks as well as my Tokyo Harajuku. My Creepy Cute still reigns supreme as far as pastel palettes go, but I just really love this palette and I love the shimmers in here so much. They're so just, they're good. Again, use my code VBean if you want to save some money. That's an affiliate code as well. I love doing these kinds of videos. This is so fun. It's just nice to think of these fantasy scenarios. It's just something wholesome, chill. It's not serious, and sometimes it's fun to just take a break from the serious and just chat about makeup for the sake of chatting about makeup. I want to hear your answers as well. If you have a channel, I encourage you to do this because it's very fun. If you don't, I still want to hear your answers down below. Let me know which palettes you would keep out of all your palettes if you could only pick one from each brand. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please hop over to my Instagram. It's BeatBean. Follow me there. I post every single day, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm posting most days here as well. If you made it to the end, I want you to leave me a cloud emoji. That was cloud, not clown. You know what? Leave me a cloud or a clown, whichever you prefer. Black Lives Matter is of course not over. Please check the link in my bio for resources on how you can help. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.